And riders, just a couple minutes remaining on those walks, couple minutes remaining on the walks. And riders and trainers, please wrap up those walks. Riders and trainers, please wrap up the walks. And riders and trainers, the course is now closed. The course is now closed for walking, as we do have the heavy equipment coming in the ring. The course is now closed for walking. And again, riders and trainers, course is now closed. Course is now closed.
Yes. Hello, we heard you. Did you hear us? Okay, do we wait for the bell? Okay, welcome to Sacramento. You're here to watch the FEI class for the Power and Speed for the International Division here, and I am Buddy Brown. I'm here with Lindsay Archer. We're here to help you with a little play-by-play. Lindsay, welcome.
Thank you, Buddy.
So we've got Will Simpson starting off, and Will is one of our faster riders out here on the West Coast. And this is one of his better horses. So if he puts a pretty good course together to start with, he's going to give everybody a chance to sort of see what this course is able to be done in. And again, he's a fast rider and a very careful horse that's very handy in these smaller rings as well.
This is a super horse that Will has. He had it at Thermal this year, and I believe he had maybe 6 wins in a row down
He's making some very short turns here early on. He's really taken a couple of chances early on these corners, and again, his horse is really jumping.
They must be feeling like this time allowed in the power phase is pretty tight for him to be doing the track that he's doing.
You know, Lindsay, to be honest with you, the way he's riding, I'm not sure if maybe they've changed this to a straight speed class, to be honest with you, because it's looking like that to me. He's not taking a chance. I don't think he takes some of these chances early on in a power and speed, so I think it's probably a straight speed, and he's coming to the last jump, I believe, here. All right, that was pretty darn good for the first horse in the ring. He's giving them something to look at and chase and take a risk if they think they can do it better.
Here's a good round for the dude and Will Simpson. And their time, it is good 62.40 seconds. Our first entry. And the first of the 38. Second rider riding for France. It's the career and show champion. European champion aboard with the stallion, a 13-year-old stallion here, Jean-Pierre Z.
Eric is a phenomenal rider. We're lucky to have him out here on the West Coast to get to watch. He was brought out here to help Carl cook, and they've had a working relationship now for a couple of years. This is a terrific horse that Carl has had for quite a few years. I believe that Butch and Luke Thomas actually found this horse for him. And it seems like Eric and Carl kind of swap off with some of their horses. And Eric obviously does a beautiful job with all of them.
Yeah, Eric is a classic rider. I mean, he's from Europe, but he obviously studied quite a bit with George Morris early on, and George went to Europe quite a bit early to do clinics, especially in France. And Eric is a beautiful stylist, is a beautiful tactician as well. You'll watch, he's very calculating on these turns. This horse is nearly not as manageable. This is like Will's horse was a Ferrari sports car. This is sort of a good SUV if you're trying to think about making fast turns and bumpy turns and things. This horse is a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier. This horse excels more in the bigger gallop courses. And you can see Eric's doing a good job making him turn and stay handy. Yeah, he's trying to make a pickup truck basically feel like he's got a Porsche, and he's coming on strong. That's where that horse can move out a little bit. Stops where he can use his stride. Some of the horses won't be able to do that. Well, we've got, as you saw in that last round, Eric obviously took a little chance on the last line, left his stride out, and he went for it a little bit. Will set a mark, and it was beaten right away. This horse and rider combination I'm not as familiar with, but I know everybody that's here is a very capable, competent rider. Looks like he's going to leave out a step in the first line as well. And you'll see different strategies. You'll have different size horses trying to do their best to keep pace and still be balanced enough to jump the jumps. I mean, some of the bigger horses will gallop more and leave steps out, and you'll see some of the riders on smaller horses take shorter tracks, but maybe add a step doing it, and their feet move faster. It's not that they're adding steps going slower, but their traction and the way they turn. And again, comparing like a Porsche to a station wagon, you can go fast on both, but you can't maybe take as turn in the station wagon as you could the Porsche. And I believe we had a rail down there, so that is definitely a factor. And you need to be clean. I have a feeling the way this class started, you're going to have to be clean and fast to get into the top group of placing. So you'll see them rebuild this jump. The clock stops while they rebuild it, and then when he gets to that takeoff spot again, the clock will restart. And he got going a little too fast. He got a little hungry and got a little bit out of balance. And just as, again, comparing for the normal person that maybe doesn't ride, comparing to driving your car fast on a twisty road. You have a certain speed you can manage and control it, and there's a certain speed where it gets a little out of control. And, you know, here he just got a little bit too fast, and the horse couldn't shorten up, and then he kind of got a little out of balance, and the next turn he stumbled a bit, and there you were. We're in front of the jump, kind of off balance.
Relatively speaking, this is a little bit younger horse than, say, the John Jersey horse that Eric was riding. This horse is only 9. You'll definitely see 9-year-olds at this level. Definitely the last one we saw. So maybe wasn't quite ready for the chances that he was taking.
Right. And, you know, you have to try. You have to give it a shot, and then you practice and learn, well, maybe I need to be a half a stride wider. And, again, you had 2 of the very best speed riders in the world going first and second, and that kind of gets people a little pumped up, and sometimes they go a little faster than they should, and they're not quite ready to control it. That's all.
That's all the count, 75.95 seconds. That includes the 6 milliseconds added, so just the
When Buddy and I are talking, if there's a refusal like that and the announcer comes in and says something, should we stop to let the announcer talk? Or
here's East Stone, Will Simpson in second, more to do. And what's a jump H.H. Memphis in the 3rd spot. Rest of the order,
Are you hearing Lindsay's talkback button?
this is Samuel Parot. He was first and second last night. Had some great rounds last night. He has loads of experience, multiple Olympic Games and Pan Am Games. Very, very competitive rider. It's going to be really fun to watch him go tonight. I would imagine this is going to be quite quick.
And I'm not sure if you caught that on camera, but it looked like as he was walking through that little corner, he wiggled the start-finish marker. I'm not sure if he's, you know, moved the eye at all from the clock. I'm sure the judges can see if that happened or not. Those eyes do have a little bit of leeway in them, but and he knocked it down. I'm not sure. It used to be a fault. I don't know if it would still be or not. Sometimes they've changed some of these rules, and I have to say I'm not 100% sure about that.
Quite tight there back to fence 5A.
Ooh.
Maybe a little too tight back to 5A.
Well, there was the risk. Now, again, you know, unfortunately the fall, it looks like he's up and the horse is okay. The horse, unfortunately, his bridle is not going to be okay. But there again, and, you know, you can see it probably on the camera angle as well. You see the audience in the boxes are ground level, and the horse is coming in on an angle where he's looking over the jump into the boxes and lost track that there was a second element there. And you know, that's definitely a risk reward. Had he been able to pull it off, it just needed, you know, the horse gets a little distracted. Again, you can see the people along the rail, and that side the rail is a little lower. It looks like he, there we go. There's that little tick on that finish line. It wiggled it, and that little flag-looking thing up there is actually the clock, the eye for the clock that managed. The judges have obviously the control of that, so they would have been able to see if the eye had been disturbed. And I believe it looked like it was a finish marker, so had it been disturbed, of course the group in the ring could have adjusted it quickly. They have communication to the judges. It looks like we've caught the horse. We're just trying to untangle the bridle. There we go. All right, and again, you know, you can see just from this angle that side where he is now, where they've captured him, you have bleachers along that side, and again, when they're raking short turns into the corners or the fences that come short out of the corners, they're angling into the wall. The horse is obviously measuring the jump, but he's a little distracted about the wall after it, and sometimes, especially there where it's a double, he just didn't see the double in time for recovery from the first jump and get his eye on the second jump.
Right, he was able to measure that first jump, and it's hard sometimes to see through the outlet of that combination.
And there's the side that, you know, you can see the ground level's a little closer, and again, when you'll see on the next horse when they come to that 5A from the angle that you're going to see on the camera how it probably for the horse for a moment he might think he's being asked to jump into the crowd. There's the groom, and the horse looks fine. He's walking out very bright, probably a little embarrassed, but the rider...
Not even that badly damaged.
No, he's able to put it back on. So maybe a little cleaning, maybe a strap here and there need to be readjusted. But it looks like we had most of the bridle still intact. So no harm done.
Let's continue on with Anne Parrish. It's riding for Metro Navet. She rides for Corey French aboard Corey Caramel Z. 11-year-old gelding. The second shot by Start by Cento. And by Corey French.
Anne and her husband, Vinton, work for Gwendelyn Meyer, who is also a sponsor for BZ Med. They have a lovely group of horses out here on the West Coast that they campaign, and they also do a wonderful job of working with Gwendelyn and her daughter Genevieve.
Yeah, it's quite a group. Gwendelyn and her daughter I've seen them now for 10 or so years since they've been on the West Coast, and they've been improving, and Vinton, her husband, and Anne themselves, they're both doing really well, and Vinton's been up in the international division in the FEI World Cups for a few years now, and Anne's getting darn close. And I don't know this horse, but I know they always have quality horses, and they do a good job in training them and preparing them. Again, this might be a little greener, and it's not quite the level of rider yet. I mean, not that she couldn't be or won't be, but she hasn't quite gotten to that top level of, jumping and stuff. But she's certainly capable, and on a horse, that looks like it's going to be capable as well. So maybe another year, and we'll see her in the World Cup next time.
She's done a great job with this horse. I think it was originally purchased for Vinton, actually. I recall him riding it in the beginning, and she really meshed with it. She's done a great job with it. She also had a younger one that she brought through.
There's that wall, yeah.
Trouble spot again. Comes up a little blind.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can catch the camera angle on that, but you can see in the middle of the ring there's that big Longines clock, and there's a photographer standing there, and as they turn to it, they're aimed right at that as they're coming to the wall. There you go. There's the clock. There's the guy standing there, and look, for a second there, he's not sure if he's supposed to go right or left from that. And again, when the horse is approaching the jump, he does measure to see if there's a place to land it, and that wall being solid gives him an illusion maybe that clock is closer than it is as he turns the corner. Obviously, where you see there just 3 rails, he can see through it to see the ground. But, a careful, smart horse is not going to jump over to something that might have a cliff on the other side, so they're a little apprehensive when they can't see the landing. Okay, so we'll see here, Anne's coming around. She had that rail down just a little bit flat, and you can see, maybe as you can see, as the rail came down, those cups are flat. The plank is on a flat surface, and it's only about 2 inches wide, so it doesn't take much. Here's the turn. You can see the horse he dropped his head a little bit. He didn't look over to see the last step was okay. He kind of got nervous. I think he looked at the clock and said, I'm not going to jump into it.
Into the ring. This is a newer ride for him. I think they got it earlier in the summer, maybe. He and his wife operate a business out of Santa Cruz, California. He rides for Ireland, which I actually was unaware of. I'm going to have to ask about that story. But they're a wonderful couple. He does a great job.
Yeah, Robert, he's been coming through the bigger divisions here locally in Northern California the last couple of years, and this is a horse I've seen him with now for about 1.5 years. It's very powerful, very powerful. I've seen it outdoors. Sometimes it's a little, not clumsy, but again, big, and sometimes shortening and being catty or careful with his feet, and fast footwork has not been his forte, but it looks like he's handling it well, and just a little bit there. Again, not a bad jump, but just a little bit mismeasured. And again, you can keep seeing as the horses are turning these corners, you can see the audience in the background and different colors on the banners and lots of things that, an inexperienced horse maybe doesn't get his eye on the jump. You can see the jumps are multicolored as well, and there's a lot of busyness for the horses to try to decide how big and how wide these jumps actually are.
The way that this course is set, it seems like there's kind of a bunch of jumps across the middle of the ring all next to each other, and I've seen a couple times the horses look a little lost as to which jump they're rolling back to, and it looked like that happened a little bit at the Liverpool.
Yeah,
ended up working out.
That was a good point, Lindsay. You could see as the horse came around there and they panned, you can see that whole end is just jump, 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 jump. You just pick a different one each time you come around it, but the horse doesn't know which jump you're picking. So Robert's pleased. He's happy with his job.
So just 2 clears here. Simpson and the 2.
There he goes, just a little bit, just a touch. You know, he just, again, it's a lot going on there. It wasn't a bad jump, just, you know, the horse is 1,000 to 1,200 pounds, and the rail's about 40. It doesn't take much to knock it off the cup. And that's how technical and accurate it has to be. We, you know, nowadays with the equipment they use and the course designers make, you have to measure everything. You got to measure how far and wide they got to jump this one and how quickly they might have to shorten before the next one. And a good course designer is constantly asking you to be able to stretch and shorten and turn and go and shorten and turn and go. So, you know, a good rider that rides pace well also manages the fact that at the end of that turn we have to jump the jump. It's not just how fast we can get there. It's once we get there we have to be able to jump this jump. And again, sometimes the turn afterwards is a vulnerable thing depending on the choice of distance you make on the approach. So
now we've got Jan Humphrey in the ring. She and her sister run a training business here in Sacramento. This is definitely a little bit less experienced horse, maybe not youngest in the class, but a little less experienced. I know it's just stepping up to this level.
Well, we've been watching Jan grow here. I mean, Lindsay and I have both been in Northern California, and Jan's older sister Jill was, you know, a few years ahead of her. It was a few years ago one of the dominant riders out here in the World Cups when she had Kiskaya, and Jan's been coming along, and I believe she's won a couple of good classes in her Sonoma circuit, which is not quite this level yet, but I've seen Jan go fast. There's no question that Jan's fearless, and she takes a shot. And again, this horse is a little greener. She's probably going to, you know, she's at an early rail, so she's going to ride for a good, confident building round. You know, maybe a few turns, so she'll take a little chance just to build some confidence for the few up. Then we'll stumble, and then she's got to regroup. Here's the tricky wall. All right, well, again, the horse was a little bit off balance from the stumble, and she never quite recovered that. All right, I mean, again, a good round. I mean, to have a rail or two is not a problem. You don't want to have a crash or a wreck. I mean, scare your horse for the future, but sometimes when they just knock a jump down, they pay a little more attention to the jump themselves while you're riding. Your job is to ride enough pace and steer, and your job is to jump the jump, so it has to be a two-way street. Right now, she's sitting there in a ribbon position. I don't know at the end of the class where that will stand up. But just again, you know, you can see just there's a pretty wide jump there. You know, when the horse has to know he has to jump wide, he has a little bit, maybe less time to get up in the air when he knows he has to stretch. So he just mismeasured the height he had to be to get over the front rail and still carry himself to the back rail.
Jeff Fields, he and his wife run a business also in Northern California. Jeff's had some experience with this horse just recently in this division, another horse that he had already. He has a bit more experience with. I know they get most of their horses from Stall Hendricks, and I believe this is one of those. And he is bringing this one along nicely. It'll be fun.
Ooh.
Oh, too bad to see how it goes tonight.
Well, again, you know, a little inexperience in that you can see that sunburst on the bottom of the jump, and, you know, it looked like Jeff maybe started off a little bit too open with a stride. To me, sometimes when you start a course that starts with a kind of a careful jump, a little vertical, you don't want to get in too big of a step. You want to, especially a greener horse, maybe you build the momentum after you get a few jumps under your belt. And yeah, she jumped that hard after touching the early one. But, you know, again, the lighting in here, it's a little bit different than the lighting out in the schooling area, and then they have to walk through the dark to get here. So that's also part of it, you know. I don't know if any of you all played tennis at night or anything like that, and you can tell it's a little different seeing the same ball you can see well during the day. It takes a little while, and, you know, there's a lot of yellow in these jumps, too, and yellow in the sort of semi-dark is not an easy color for myself even, or the horses, to kind of get a really good depth perception against, especially when there's a lot of multiple colors in the background. It's not a color that stands out well.
Looks like she's getting a little tired here.
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, Jeff's working hard to help her through it. Giving her some good jumps here at the end just to finish strong. Again, you know, a little experience. We're off to a shaky start, but he finished well. Again, we're looking, you know, some of the riders are going to try to win. Some of the riders are moving up to experience, and this is our first, especially here in Northern California, first indoor show of the season. And when you're competing outdoors in big fields and you come to a small ring and, you know, more jumps, more people go, oh, look at that, that was pretty far away. You know, horse, I think, misjudged how far that was and wasn't quite ready for that takeoff. Oh, she jumped that. He jumped that. She wasn't going to make that mistake again. All right, looks like we've got Sarah Happy in here. I've known Sarah for quite a while as a rider. I've seen her since she was, I think, finishing up the junior divisions out here. I'm not familiar with this horse. I haven't seen Sarah for a while. She hasn't been in our area for a while. I think she's been up more in Canada circuit and doing Spruce Meadows and Thunderbird and possibly some on the East Coast as well. And she had that early rail. There's that combination. It's been a little bit difficult. Rub, but nothing horrible. You know, she's had one rail, but she's still, practicing to go a little bit. She's not going for the win, obviously. She knows she's out of that, but she's going to train herself and the horse to be a little more careful on shorter approaches. She doesn't have the pedal down, which her track and her her rhythm and her distance is bright. And again, you see she's not using the whole ring. And again, not to get too mathematical, but she's doing basically 3 stride turns. You see she's straight, and in 3 strides she's jumping, and that gives the horse a chance to square up to it, measure it up, square to it, 1, 2, 3, go. And that gives the horse a little chance to get his body ready off the turn to go to the other side straight. And if you can, like a gymnast, if you can take off straight and land straight, you're ready for the next move.
Good ride. Joker B 70.37 seconds. The 4 faults and
I think we were able to see it. Will and Eric made it look so easy going first and second, and I don't believe we've seen a clean round since, have we? No, she moved into 3rd place there. So, you saw 2 masters go early, and they made it look like a cakewalk. And we've seen, 7 or 8 go since then, and the best score has been Sarah Hare with 4 faults, and in 11 seconds slower than our leader. So she took more time and had a rail, and so, the first 2 were competitive riders, and I'm sure there's a few to come. I don't know that we've seen the winner yet, to be honest with you. I believe I haven't checked the whole start list, but I know there's some riders here that like to go fast and like to win. So I'm sure we'll see a few more take a shot.
This next rider is from Japan. He has competed at the Sydney Olympic Games in 3 World Cup finals. He jumped around last night and just 1 down. So we'll see how he goes tonight.
Well, this is truly an international horse show now. We have this show, and then next week there's a show in LA that is also a 5-star event, which is part of a huge series around the world, a global series. And so some of the riders are coming over here to prep for that and do an indoor show. As I said, this is the first show outdoor or indoors that we've had at this level for sure to prepare for that. And next week's LA Masters is a huge event. You have a lot of European riders coming. You have the top 30 or so world or computer ranked riders in the world invited, and you have some other national riders that are up and comers that are also going to be there competing. And this is a good place. You've got strong competition, you've got a good course designer, you've got a great venue, you've got good management, and a lot of classes for not only your top horses but for your up-and-coming horses. And this is becoming an international circuit. We're privileged out here to be able to see some of these riders that we don't normally see, that train in Europe and maybe come over here for Spruce Meadows at the end of the season. And now some of them, we've got enough good events now that some are staying around. So it's not just Europe that has the top riders now. They're learning that we have some good events and big prize money, and they want to come take some of our money. As much as we want their euros, they want our dollars. I believe Lindsay's headset has a little technical problem, so fortunately you're stuck with me for a few moments until we get her cleared up. But you can see he's thrilled. He's thrilled. Again, this is top competition. You don't expect to win every time, but you want to build valuable mileage and experience for the future. And coming from Japan, they're up and coming with the team and young riders, and they're coming to Europe to train with some of the top European minds, and they're learning a lot more. And Japanese are very athletic people, and I've often said that if any other type of competitor that you would want to maybe make a rider, a gymnast would probably be a good example. And the Japanese people are very little and light and quick and agile, and that makes for a good rider. Lindsay, I actually worked with Jamie for about 6 months with this horse, and I think it was about 3, maybe 4 years ago. She and this horse, and I helped her, was her first meter 40, so that's 4'6" class, and now we're talking that she's competing in the World Cup classes, and now we're talking 5'3" and 5 foot to 6 foot wide, and she's actually had a great season, and she's overcome, not being able to hear. It's a big part of it. We don't realize how much it is until you hear of somebody that doesn't have it, and occasionally my ears have been plugged, or I've been out riding out in the wind and I don't hear, and as Lindsay said, she doesn't hear the buzzer. She has to look for the clock to see when it's her turn or time to start in the ring.
I know even as a rider, when you hear rubs, it makes you think about being a little stronger or a little more accurate, maybe trying to change things. I don't even know that she can hear a rub.
Right, and again, I don't think about it as much until sometimes we're in a windy place, and with our helmets, the whistle of the wind in our ears makes you not hear the horses hit the ground, and it's weird to feel sometimes like you're cantering into it, like you're going in place. You're working hard and you don't feel how fast you're actually going. But Jamie's she's a tribute to somebody that's overcome adversity to work hard at something, and again, most of us probably take for granted that we can hear the footsteps as well as feel them. And the announcer and somebody hollering when you're in their way or they're about to hit you. Like we yell heads up when we're in the schooling area, and unfortunately Jamie can't hear that.
Look at the challenge status. He is a lot of 167. That is a 9-year-old black mare. We're talking about Orlando Rest and the variant. And the rider is Carrie Roofer of the United States. This horse is won by one starts for horses.
Whoop. He's showing off a little bit.
Carrie is local here to Sacramento. Her family is a farming family in the area. This horse, I know she's been doing a lot of work with Carl Hanley in Germany. I'm not sure if she owns it or if they own it together, but they've formed kind of a partnership, and she has quite a few horses now as she's moving up into this division, getting a lot of good experience.
Yeah, she's definitely, she's a local girl for sure. I mean, she's been, I've only been out here about 10 years, but I heard of her being more, when I got here, of her as being one of the younger, tough, good riders that competed against professionals even as a junior in the area, and that's a tribute to her, slickness, her coolness, and she rides as an amateur. She doesn't need to do it as a business, but she does it well at a top level against people that do it as a full-time job, and she has time to do it a lot, and she has multiple horses to do it on, which is giving her lots of experience. But you can see she's a competitive rider. She's always been aggressive. She's never short of guts. I've never seen her say no to a challenge. And you can see she's a pretty competent rider, and she rides with pace, and she rides aggressively out of the corners. And, you can tell when a rider's confident that they're always going forward. When they do their shortening, it's not in front of the jump. They're doing it early so they can go forward at the jump.
Let's continue with our next rider. Riding internationally for Canada, Ben Asselin.
Did you hear that? We talked back.
This is a 9-year-old bay mare. Clear bay.
As you said, Ben comes from a riding family. It's in his blood. He's actually, if you call it genetics into riding, his mother and his father were both Grand Prix riders. I think his father possibly still is. I've known him for a while, but I haven't kept up with his recent career. But Ben is up and coming. He's up to the top level. He's a competitive kid. I've seen him come up through the divisions basically since he was about 10 years old. And Norman Delajoyo, who he's training with now, he and I actually grew up in the same area and competed together. We're about a month apart in age, and we're as we call ourselves, some of the 56 era, myself and Norman and Leslie Howard, I believe she is now. She was at Burr and then Linehan, but we're all part of that same generation. We got a great chance to learn from George Morris, and we were around when Rodney Jenkins was a great rider. Oh, that was a great. That was a great round till there. Very smooth, very even, very easy, and maybe just let his guard down. Just unfortunate there. That's too bad. It looked so easy, and it's not over till you dump the last jump. Maybe just got a little casual about how well it was going, and you can see some of the jumps he gave his horse a little extra check in the, off the ground to get its eye up, and here he kind of softened and said, "We're done," and the horse just lowered his eye just a fraction. I mean, again, these rails are light, and the cups that they sit in are not very deep, and a little roll like that just rolls up to the edge of the cup. You can see it didn't hit it hard, just rolled it a little bit on the upslope, and it rolled momentum to the back of the cup, and it just fell right in place, basically right where it would have been dropped if you were going to set the jump there.
Jen is another competitor that we have here from north of the border. She is a lovely girl, always comes down to Thermal every year with a big group, does a lot of sale horses, but always manages to keep herself kind of in the big ring. Let's see how she does here tonight.
Yeah, Jen, I've watched her, as you have, Lindsay, especially in Thermal. That's where we probably see the most of her for ourselves, and she's had a good group of horses. She's worked with Jill Henselwood, who's one of the top Canadian female riders, and so she's had a good kind of mentor to work under, and now she does a lot on her own, and I've seen her with a few different horses in the Grand Prix, and she's had some success, and she's one of those girls that works at it and has a business as well and has students that she trains, and it's hard to balance, for the competitive stuff you'd want to do for herself at this level and to still keep a business for clients. It's not always the same horse shows. It's not always easy to keep yourself fit and training and mentally focused. I mean, this is a top level, and she's doing a good job, and I don't know how many other clients she has here, but usually when you come to these horse shows, you don't bring your whole barn, so.
No, I saw her the other day, and we were laughing, actually, because it was a fairly last-minute trip, I think, for her to come down here. But, too bad. I was going to say it looks quite worthwhile, but that was too bad.
Yeah, that was too bad. She did a good job setting up the horse's eye to get it over the wall. It just looked like his hind end got a little bit closer than she expected when she got there, and he didn't quite have finished time to kind of push it into the ground and get it up out of the way. Well, he finished well. Again, fortunate rail there. That doesn't fall very often unless you're, falling into it. That wall usually is solid enough they don't cut hit it.
On course, 77.37 seconds, and just the one.
Good, nice horse though. Look at him, it's easy. Look at her balance. See that? There she landed, ready to ride the next jump. And to me, I'm a teacher, I'm a rider. To me, right there, you're ready to sit up and land and ride that next stride, just like the gymnast that sits at landing. That's usually the better rider.
So from my start list, it looks like we have skipped over the 14th entry in the class in Parot. I'm not sure he had come off earlier. Hopefully he's okay, but we're moving on now to Guillermo Obligado. He's a San Diego-based trainer. He has a big sales business as well as a training stable, lots of international experience, going to the Olympics, World Cup finals, multiple. He's a great guy.
Yeah, I've been out in California area for about 10 or so years now, and he's one of the first gentlemen that came and welcomed me, and he's not from this area either, so I'm sure there were people that came and welcomed him when he came, and he felt appropriate to help me. I'm American, but I'm from the East Coast most of my life, and coming to an area, you don't know everybody, and a couple of people that help you meet some others, and you can see Guillermo, he's very calm, very cool, big, I jinxed him a little bit there. His horse's eye, you can see right there, they're looking at the plank again, and he kind of was on a turn where his eye didn't quite get to that. A little rub there. Let's see if he recovers.
Bigger variety of horse that Buddy was talking about earlier, not quite as catty.
No, you can see he's giving a little wider turn so he didn't have to slow it down, and that's the idea. Well, we've jinxed him again. He gave himself a little more time there, and the horse again. I believe that clock has something to do with the horses taking their eye off the wall at the last step, because they're straighter to that one than they are some of the others, and they just seem to just get distracted, right? And that's a course designer's cleverness. You know, it's not the wall so big. It's what the horse sees behind the wall. I think he sees when he turns that that clock looks like it's part of the wall, and I think they try to duck their head to the side to avoid hitting the clock.
5 seconds to Vincent. Coming down, 8 jumping faults for Guillermo Obligado.
But, you know, again, a nice smooth round. I think Guillermo's planning on going tomorrow night, so he probably didn't want to get his horse rushing. I mean, tomorrow's night course will be bigger and a little more. Oh, there you go. See, his eye was a little on the other jump next to it. He gave him a little check with his heart, with hand to get his eye off of it quickly, and he almost overdid it and took his eye right past it. And again, you know, it's probably a little different than that angle shows, but you can see the horses have to turn as soon as they land, and they're turning pretty close to that clock. So when you don't see the ground between the back of the wall and the top of the clock, you don't know how far away that is. So again, I believe that's part of the distraction. And there's Jill. I've seen her on this horse for a few years now. It's not as classical a jumper as some of them with its front end, but she gets it done. I mean, it wins enough. I mean, it definitely, you know, it's got its own style. You can see its shoulders don't get as high as some of the horses. He jumps higher to make up for it, and he kicks his hind end very high, but his front end is, as we say, kind of a little drapey. It's not that he's uncareful. He just doesn't have the same quick shoulder action as you see in a lot of the horses, but he's overcome it. She's learned to give him a distance that gives him time to get it up. If he's a little closer to the jump, it's a little harder for him, but if he's got a little more like this, a little farther away, he's got enough power to make up. I've jinxed her. I guess I should stop telling people how well they're doing. I should start saying you're doing poorly, and maybe they'll do better. But again, you can see she's, you know, she knows her horse. I've seen her on this horse for several years, and she's come through the divisions. You know, when you start in the smaller divisions, and you know what you and your partner have done or haven't done well in the past, so you learn to make up. Okay, this turn I can cut short, this turn I shouldn't, this turn I need to run at, or this jump I need to run at. And, again, not a bad round. She was off to a good start. And, you know, sometimes you get caught up in the competition and you hear the crowds cheering, and you maybe just lose your focus and hustle a little faster. You know, and it's not speed, but maybe your brain gets just a little off pace. And right here, she was still straightening a little bit. She wasn't quite as ready for that. Look, you can see him shift a little bit over and just a touch behind. He just mismeasured that. And again, you can see the patterns on these rails sometimes with the multicolors and multi-stripes. When your horse is straight to it, the stripes line up, especially on an oxer. When you're not straight to it, that zigzag look in the eye is kind of a moving blur as you're coming through the turn. So, especially, like I said, yellows are not easy. You know, you have yellow and dark against, you know, a hard color indoors for both black and yellow are tough. You're lucky there you got a little bit of white, and if I was riding that line, I would aim for the white. Try to get right down the middle of the white.
Next we've got Tiffany Sullivan here. This is a very large horse, 11-year-old gelding. She's had him, I want to say maybe a year and a half, had some pretty good mixed results with him. She and her sister both ride from Southern California. She had another horse that she did for quite a while, a nice chestnut horse in these classes, but this one seems to be stepping up for her.
Again, you'll see this is not your Porsche, but it's powerful and it's smooth. You know, here's a limousine. Okay, it's very powerful. You're going to go for a nice, smooth, big ride, but you know, you'll see she's not going to be as short on the turns. But again, she's managing a track that keeps the horse's rhythm easy for him. So it's steerable, and again, at the end of the turn, he has to jump a jump. So if you get going too fast and scramble like that, she had to do some fancy footwork to get him straight, and that takes energy.
That was one of those spots where I think the placement of the jumps there got the horse a little distracted. He looked like he locked onto the Longines vertical instead of the Liverpool, but it ended up working out.
You're exactly right. Look, she almost jumped the standard on that one. See, she's getting almost too fast to steer. And it's just a little bit heavy. He's tired now. He's had to do some tricks to get his feet square. And each time he has to do it, it's harder and tireder. Same thing. She ran out of a little You can see it was a zigzag wiggle woggle. It never was a straight step, even as he left the ground. And that was a very technical term there, but sort of what it was. To me, again, you can get to that turn quick and windy, but, again, I think of, a gymnast. They're going to jump and do a vault. They want to be square to take off and square to land. Then they can do... That was amazing. I think, most horses would have just kept running by it, but she was determined to keep his nose between those standards. Look at here. She's almost through the gap.
Again, I think he locked onto the oxer.
Well, I think he looked at the hole between the two jumps. Honestly, I think he was tired. Looking for the way between them, not over either of them. But again, that's like steering a big truck around a turn. You have to steer for the trailer, not just for the truck. Lindsay and I drive trucks. We know what it's like to have horses in the back pushing you down a hill on a windy road. You got to slow it down so you can turn the trailer too. You don't want to tip it. And again, for the person that doesn't ride, that's what I think is probably the most to compare it to is momentum, turning, and up and down hills. And imagine you're in your sports car. Well, that's fun if you like to go fast. And if you're in a big SUV, you don't go as fast because you got the kids and the eggs in the back.
So we've got Michelle Rodel on course now. She's an adorable girl that we've had out here on the West Coast for a couple years now. She's based in San Diego as well. She has kind of a newer string. I actually haven't seen this horse yet. I think she's had it for a little while. But she's a beautiful rider. Very, very soft.
She is. She's a little tiny, tiny girl. She probably weighs 100 pounds soaking wet with her clothes on. So you can see, though, but she's learned to manage with her strength by leverage position, I call it. She's not strong, but look where her body is. She has core balance against the horse and an upper body to help pull the horse up. If you get a horse's shoulders up, they're much easier to steer. You can see she doesn't try to keep his nose down. She keeps his eye high as the jumps are going to be. In flat work and all, we train to get the good muscles around. But when the horse is jumping, he doesn't want his chin in his chest. He's looking up over the jump, and he's going to use his neck to help get him in the air. So if we pull his neck too tight, he needs some flexion to help work with. But some horses like this one have their own style, and a deer jumps with its head up, and they jump pretty darn good. So
it's going to be interesting to see here how the time allowed is. She's gone around in a couple of places and definitely just taking a more conservative track.
Right, she's going for that clear, and if she can stay under 4 time fault, she'll still move into a good position.
Just over, I think. But that was
And then
nice.
she finished there.
And with just 2 clear, I believe that
How many
was
time
putting her
faults?
right into third. Just one time.
One time.
fault. We've got
Okay,
FEI
well,
here.
that's a good placing. To me, rule of thumb is if you're going to go slow, don't have 4 time faults because you're going to be the slowest 4-faulter in the class. The 4-faulter that had a rail down going fast is going to beat you every time. So if you're going to have a time fault, have 3 or less, then you're going to beat all the 4-faulters. So, and Michelle, she's not our fastest rider. She's jumped a lot of big classes and had a time fault, but sometimes it's still a good placing.
We have Cara Anthony here from up in Washington. She's come down to California. She came down earlier in the summer to our Sonoma series that we have. Came back, I believe maybe she came down from a Clay Regionals, I think possibly last week, and I'm sure she's here for LA Masters as well. This is a 9-year-old mare by Cardento, and we'll see how she goes.
I don't know if Cara herself comes from a riding family, but she's sure producing a riding family. She's got 2 daughters that look a lot like her and ride quite well. One of her daughters has done some really impressive things already, and they're both very competitive. And you can see Cara, she's come from the American system. She's a polished, pretty rider. She's got some experience, maybe not all the experience at the big international level that some of the jumper riders have, but she's ridden for quite a few years at, against and with other top people up in her area. Just a little bit slow into that. And again, the pace and the distance have to match. And again, when the horse saw there that there was a second element, he took his eye just a little bit off the width of the first element. Again, not enough to hurt or scare him, but just enough to mismeasure. So, we're asking the horse to jump wide and then basically jump 3 inches wide. So the arc of that jump is different. You know, for a horse to jump straight up over the wall doesn't mean he has to go that fast, but to jump across the same height with 5 like this, look, she worked hard. She knew to jump that wide from that distance, she needed to have extra go. It's like launching a plane. When you get the last step in the takeoff, it has to have enough power to accelerate again. Yeah, that was a very good last
quite
time.
a good round.
Is that a clear round? Oh, no,
No,
sorry,
she
that
just
one.
had the one down.
And again, just, you know, that little kick she gave at fence 10 and maybe just half of that kick at 5A and she would have been fine. And, you know, sometimes the riders worry about the B element running in too hard because it's careful and a 3-inch wide, and maybe she took a little off of the, look at that. She was motoring there. You know, and she had to make up for the fact that she was just barely getting straight that last stride, and when she hit that last stride, she had still some ground to cover just to get to the front rail, much less the back rail. But she reacted.
Here we have Siri Kane. She's an amateur that rides with Dick and Francie and Susie Schroer. Dick Carmen, Francis Steinfeld, Susie Schroer. Interestingly, I believe that this horse actually was purchased from Cara Anthony. I remember watching Cara ride this horse here a couple years ago. And looks like she's getting ready to go here.
Well, I've known Dick and Francie quite a long time, and Susie as well. Susie grew up on the East Coast, and Dick, I believe, grew up out here, and Francie as well, but they run a great business. Whoop. Hello. 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 They can't hear me. I don't know if anybody else can hear me.
We're all gone.
Hello. Hello. Oh, now we're back. Sorry, I believe we might have been off for just... Okay. All right. All right, so we'll pick up with Sari. Dick and Francie, they bring a lot of good young riders up to this level. Oh, just a little miscalculation there. You can see she was a little worried about it. She gave her horse just a little tap on the shoulder when she turned the corner, but I think that might have distracted him just a little bit as well. But, you know, some horses and riders, again, there's no water in that, but the color in that gives the horse a chance. He looks down. He sees that bright blue. He expects maybe there's water in that. You have to sort of keep the horse's chin up a little bit to pay more attention to the jump. And I think he got a little distracted down. And when she kind of changed her hand position to use the crop, I believe it let the horse drop his head down and then even noticed the blue even more. But she's coming back, finishing well. Again, as I was saying, Dick and Francie have brought a lot of good young riders to the next level that have wanted to go international and can afford to maybe go there for the summer and compete in some of the European shows and get a little feel of it. It's a different idea when you go over there because it's just all about the jumpers and jumper horse shows in Europe. You see some, you know, world quality top riders, even at some of the smaller shows, bringing along some of the younger horses, and everything's focused on the big ring. Well, she finished well. Again, a young rider, younger, I don't know about how young the horse is, but, you know, younger rider-horse combination experience level. Oh, I'm hearing the ring announcer saying she has a second try. You can see that just a little bit. You can see her kind of make a big move with her shoulder and kind of drop her right hand and go to that little crop on the neck, and it just let him follow her left rein a little harder than keeping his head straight. And they're just a little deep. But again, solid round for a young rider.
Now we have Eduardo Manes in the ring. He rides for Brazil. He was just on the winning Nations Cup team up at Spurs Meadows. This is a horse that I have not seen before, a 9-year-old gelding by For Pleasure. Eduardo is a terrific rider, usually quite fast.
He is. I mean, we're lucky. We have, out in California, we have some great Mexican riders that have made more of a home here and compete more here. He and Enrique and John Perez, I mean, they're quality riders, quality gentlemen, and you can see Eduardo is much taller than a lot of our riders, yet he can manage to keep himself in a position of balance. And again, you'll see, he's a very tall rider. He's probably 6'4".
Does a beautiful job of holding his body, though. He doesn't really ever influence them.
Yeah, he and Eric Navet are very similar in body style, and you can see he hustles and then he's centered. He's never hurried looking. He's never chaotic. He's smooth, he's slick, he's fast, he's powerful, obviously, and he's obviously, look, he can manage a turn. He's got the horse's eye up, and he's right there with his leg. And look, his eye is already, he's going for it. He's trying to get one of those top placings. He's squaring it up again, get straight. All right, now he's in the white. Now he got the horse's eye organized. He's looking for that wall. You can tell Eduardo's eyes are always ahead of where he is, and that's where he's thinking. I'm not thinking where I am. Where do I want to go, and how quickly can I get there? Oh, this is a short one. Go. See, just a little bit. He got anxious. If he'd gone maybe a half a stride wider, he could have kicked. He got turned in and got turned in shortening. And that's the risk reward. When you turn into a big one, you have to have room to get to the width of it as well. The verticals you can take advantage of. They're 3 inches wide. Some of these oxers are close to 6 feet wide. And
it's interesting. We're looking there. His time, I believe, was 61, and our first 2 riders were 62 and 59. We haven't seen that many rounds that were that fast.
No, and again, those first 2 made it look so easy. I thought we were going to have lots of clean rounds and lots of fast rounds, and they just made it look so easy. And Eduardo's really the first one that's gone after the win. And now we're in the point in the class where we're kind of probably halfway or a little more than halfway through, and people are going, hey, a clean round's going to get me a check. So you'll see some of these riders now maybe back off. Maybe they were thinking in the beginning of the class after watching the first 2, well, I better be ready to pedal down and go clean. And now the strategy comes in. How fast can you go and be careful? Because still we have, 2 clean rounds and one falter.
Right.
So in a few fast, well, obviously Eduardo was the fastest by 5 seconds in the 4-fault department. So, a competitive ride, if you think you could win and you have a risk and have a rail, right now you're still in the ribbon. A solid clean round for sure, you're no worse than 3rd. And, just stay with, like Michelle did, stay under 4 faults of time faults and clean round, and you're right now going to be a good ribbon. And, for some of these younger riders and whatnot, they're maybe not going to be as competitive tomorrow night in the World Cup class. So if they can help one check this week and help for the to work with the horses, and that's important too. This doesn't, just because you buy a good horse and have a good rider doesn't mean you're going to win the first class you go in. It takes to trust and to timing, and again, course after course, we're asked different questions. So it takes a while to get familiar for the horse, for the rider. Again, some of these turns, even some of the seasoned horse and riders are, this is a very simple looking course, but subtly deceptive so far.
12 jumping faults for Casey Evans. So we move about 78.68 seconds in the 12 jumping faults. Unfortunately, will not change their top placings. 8th in 12th place, Carrie Boyce Lockhart from Eugene, Oregon, and Parot, DC with 4 faults. That time is 75.46 seconds.
There you can see, the horse made a big high effort, but we just, by about an inch, mismeasured the wideness to the jump, not the height. He carried it in there just a little bit. He jumped his front end high and his hind end not quite high enough. And, he may have jumped it high enough, but not at the wrong time. He has to arc at the right time to be over the jump with all 4 legs. It's like a high jumper. You see some of very unique styles in people high jumping where they're folded backwards over the bar, but they pull their feet up at the very last second. Some horses you'll see that as well, and some horses just have a really good technique and their feet are never involved in the bar. You'll see some that come off the ground in one smooth move, and others that come off in a wiggle and then a thump, and again, they're all different. Every horse is a little different.
Out there in the first line here, Megan News.
Well, I think we have somebody going for her, that's for sure. Let's see what happens. She's coming to 4. This is a careful. She's got that. Here's been the tough spot. If you can get through here, she went a little wide. She gave it a chance to get straight.
We're fast.
All right, we're fast. Look at her head. She's whipping it around. This is a little gamble. All right, she's got it. All right, organizing on the gallop. This is fix it on the fly. Don't slow down. Just organize while you're going. And look at her eyes. She's getting ready. She's looking for that wall. She's putting his eyes straight. Trying anyway. Squaring it up. Get over. Now turn it. There you go. And you can see how close that clock was. 2 strides and she almost hit it. So that shows a little better idea how close that clock is behind that wall. She's taking a good shot. Steer it in. She's on it. Look at him kick his ass. He's not tired. Sorry, excuse me. Oh, look at that. There we go. What is that? What is that time? 61. Slips into second.
So second behind
Good ride.
Eric.
Great ride. Great horse, obviously.
That's incredible that Eric on that big horse
Look at
was
it.
still
Look at it here.
2
Look at
seconds
him
faster.
digging in the turn. Watch his feet. Look how square he gets. Look at his hind end. Wow. Right? To jump and kick like that, he had to be what I call in a power squat. He's got to lift his chest back into his lap, basically, in a squat and get ready to hurl 800 pounds straight in the air. And when he does, he's going to kick his ass high to land on his front feet. That was impressive. That's an athlete. And she was hustling. She knows that horse. She took a shot. She knew where she needed to be a little bit wide to give him a chance at 5AB. That's obviously a place where you don't take the risk. You know, if you're going to be fast, be a little cautious there, because that's come down enough that we call those bogeys. It's proved itself enough that that's a difficult spot. So, you know, you can be fast everywhere else. Be a little cautious there. Make sure you leave them up and then go be fast again.
We've got Ray Texel now. Ray is based out of Petaluma in Northern California, and he works with an amateur woman that owns this horse. She rides herself and owns a horse or two for Ray. And I believe he had a bit of success on this one up at Spruce Meadows and in Thunderbird earlier this summer, so this will be fun to watch. We haven't seen him jumping the bigger tracks down here for a little while.
Well, Ray's he's a boy's boy for sure. You can see he's got his chin stuck out. He likes to go fast. He likes to compete. He wants to show people out here he can do this. And he's been at the top, and he's made a few changes in his life, and now he's coming back to the top. And he's got a good group of people out here he's working with, some good amateur riders, and as Lindsay said, some of his riders share horses with him for the ride, or they sponsor him on horses, and he's got a good group behind him right now. You know, it takes a team to get going again, and he's put together a good team. He's obviously a good rider. He's got a good ground man. Oh, look at that horse give a second kick there. He lost him.
I haven't seen that come down much tonight. I would have expected it more.
Well, you know, when the horse gave that little second kick effort over that oxer, you could tell he wasn't quite measuring. When you have to give that second effort, it means something not quite 100%. And I think he just mismeasured. When he gave that kick, he just mismeasured his recovery just a touch. Again, it wasn't much of a rub. And those, as we call skinny jumps, are only 8 foot wide, so they're even lighter rails than the other rails. And we got those two rails right back to back.
67.33 seconds.
Well, again, you know, he's had some success. You know, he started off good, and again, you know, sometimes you go one more gear after you jump the first third or 2/3 of the course, and that just the horse just look at his right front foot. Ray knew he was going left. For some reason, the horse made a step towards the right and just kind of got his timing off. Timing of his footwork just a little bit. This is Matias.
Yeah, now we've got Matias across again, a little change in the order.
Yeah.
This is a nice horse that he has. He jumped some clear rounds at thermal on this horse this year. Had a little bit of a tough time last night. I don't think, but hopefully we'll have a good trip here tonight. This is a great horse. Matias rides really well.
Yeah, Matias, a little luck rub there. A little bit to say. Matias is a good rider. He's from Sweden, I believe, originally. And, I did not see his riding last night. As I said, it didn't go quite as well. But again, you can see he's not hustling. Maybe after last night, he's just trying to put a solid round back on his horse. Again, these courses are still technical. I mean, it's not going to be anything like tomorrow night for sure. But
And like you said earlier, this is our first indoor that we've had out here on the West Coast. The success he's had with this horse was down at Thermal and at the Oaks and some bigger fields, and it's definitely a big change when you get jumps of this size in a ring that's this size.
yeah, and again, the crowd being closer. That, you know, when the big field, the jumps are mostly what you see. In here, the jumps are the least of what you see. You know, you're turning and you're seeing people in the crowds walking, lighting changes. You can see around the arena that, that the lighting changes for the horse's eyes, you know, behind the jump when they're going towards that vendor area. There's lights in the background. When they're on the bleacher side, there's some dark paneling as well. And
12 jumping faults in a time of 71.60 seconds.
I think after last night, he's happy with that. It was a positive round, maybe not exactly what he was hoping for, but it was positive.
Still in the lead with 4 clears.
Right. I mean, every once in a while, especially on a younger horse, you have to put together the round again after a not so good round and just go back to basics. And not ask any challenging questions, but reinforce some good basics for the horse to understand that, you know, the rider's still there, still committed. You know, when a horse has trouble, I did not see it, I don't know what it was, but sometimes the horse has to know the rider's not giving up on him as well.
Right.
So it's a reinforcement.
You should introduce Jenny here, buddy.
Well, yeah, I guess I should. Jenny is, she's worked with me. I've worked with her now for 5 or 6 years. She's a great rider. I'm sitting in the booth tonight. She's working on her own with her husband, Steve McAllister, but I've known Jenny more than 20 years. I won't tell her how old we are, but this is a horse. He's a really incredible horse and very unusual. He's huge. All right, it's like a double tractor trailer. He's long, he's huge. Last few years, you know, I believe last year, he had an injury, but 2 years before that, he has jumped, I don't know if they have it this year, the 6-bar event here, has jumped 6'6", 2 years in a row. So he can jump an incredible jump, but again, he's a little more of an outdoor horse. He's big. It's hard to get this big horse to get enough power. You can see everything's slow with him. He's huge, and he's powerful, and he can jump. Like the verticals that he jumped in those high jumps were set up to where there was 2 or 4 of them in a row, 2 strides apart, and the timing helped him figure it out. And you can see he'll jump an incredible jump, and then he jumps the same looking jump, but the rail was before the jump got hit before he got over the top of the jump. So he's a difficult horse for her to ride in a small area because you have to try to make him feel like a little horse, and it's hard. You have a big, powerful engine. This thing could pull 5 trailers up a hill, and going downhill he might get a little away from you, and turning quickly is certainly not going to be his forte. I mean, I could probably outrun him in a turn. Now in a straightaway, you give him 6 strides to get going forward, there's not many can keep up with him after those 6 strides because he has a huge stride, but when you have to constantly turn, you can't take advantage of it. You know, and then this horse got injured, and he's bringing him back. He's not up to his full fitness. He's not up to his full timing. And again, for a bigger, some of this, I talked to her before. This course wasn't that difficult as far as distances and lines. What he needs to practice is getting close to the jumps and figuring out how to get his feet up. So I told her if she had a rail early, just keep going deep and making him, the more times he practices it, the more times he'll have a chance to figure out, it's just coming up. It's not that he has trouble getting across. He had the one rail behind, but that was because she really put him deep. But he can take off 2 feet in front of the jump and land 12 feet behind it.
Brazil's Eduardo Manes. He rides and owns.
Ooh, there we go. Yeah, she put him deep. When I see her later, I'll have to tell her she followed my instructions. And again, it wasn't a pretty round, but it was a teaching round for him. He needs to learn how to get his front feet out of the way.
Right. We've got Eduardo Manes back here. He gave it a real shot on the chestnut horse that he did maybe 10 rounds ago. He's had this one a bit longer, so we'll see if he has a little bit better luck on this one. He's sitting 6th at the moment.
I have a feeling he's going to take a shot. I very rarely have seen him not take a shot, so I have a feeling we're going to see another round trying to go competitive. And again, watch him. He's just it looks like he's going slow, but he's never wasting a step.
And he's so tidy usually in his track.
His track is minimal extra steps.
Ooh, it's very
or
good
extra
there.
Inches. And again, you can only go so fast and still jump the jumps. It's manage a track that you don't have to stop on is usually the fastest. So you have to steer your horse wide enough to take a good step and not shorten it. That he left at least 1 stride out there, I think, from everybody. And he's going a little wide, setting up the straighter. There you go. You can see he's on the right side looking to go left. He gives himself a little angle. Now he's looking for that wall. If he can package this wall and get over that next oxer, I have a feeling he went a little wide. He's making sure that he has time to kick right here and get it. Again, he had to steady a little too hard to steer it. And when he did that, he took a little of the forward step away and scrambling the turn just a little bit.
Faster than his last one.
Yeah.
4 faults again, but he's now the 2 fastest of our 4 falters.
Well, it's sad that he's had the rails, but for him, I know he's got a shot tomorrow night, too. And sometimes, it's hard to win 2 in a row. Sometimes you have a little mistake tonight. You might be just a little more on your game. The horse might be trying. Look at it. Here is the turns. He's scrambling to steer. His horse's eye was in the VIP vendor row there until one stride away. When he turned that corner, and again, you can sort of see in the background, there's lighting. Look at the pictures with the lights on them. And the horse's eyes, just like ours, it takes a minute to readjust. And, when you're going through different lightnings and the horse is kind of blinking for a moment, I know myself, if I'm driving at night and the headlights come really fast at me over a turn, it takes me a second for those black and white dots to go away before I can see the road again. And again, not enough to not see, but you can also see that Longines jump is very blue and white, and from the angle I'm sitting at here looking down,
disappears a little bit into that wall as they're making the turn.
And you can see the Longines banner on the wall on the angle that the horses are sort of seeing it. So that's
those
it.
rails just blend right in with that sign.
Yeah. And again, I'm a course designer as well. And, when you don't want to build the jump so big that they can't be jumped, but you want to make them challenging to jump, visual aid is part of it. And, I've purposely put a different colored jump in a certain spot because of what was behind it, to either make it harder or make it easier. Sometimes you want to make it harder, sometimes you want to make it easier.
This will be fun to watch. This is Rich Fellers on his wife's horse, Revenge. She had to have surgery, I believe, on his shoulder. I haven't gotten to see him ride this horse yet, but it's a lovely horse that Shelley has brought along. And as we all know, Rich is always fast.
Well, yeah, as good as track rider as Rich and Will Simpson are, and Eduardo is, Rich is probably, I would say if I had those three to bet on, I'd probably take Rich. He's slick, and this is his wife's horse, and I'm kind of extremely jealous because I've watched this horse with his wife since it was a 5-year-old, and it's one of my favorite horses out here, and his wife's a lovely lady, and she rides really well herself for, to being the wife of Rich Fellers. I'm sure there's big shoes you got to feel like you got to fill, and look at Rich. He's looking for curve. Yeah, just because the course designer said it straight doesn't mean you have to jump it straight. Rich is the master of curving out to steer in. Watch this. He's going to steer out, looking to steer in. And when he comes in to go. He never comes in until he's ready to go. Look, he steers out, sets up, balances, steers in, and goes. You very rarely... again, just that. I think all those jumps together.
Lock on to that other jump.
Yeah, again, Rich has not ridden this horse as much as his wife, so maybe some of Rich's slick moves are not quite tuned into this horse yet, but you can see it's still a gamer, and Rich is always a gamer, and, sometimes the horses aren't quite as ready to go as fast as Rich is ready to go, but if he rides it much longer, we're going to be... Well, those that are competing are going to be worried about this as much as they would be Flexible, because this is a quality horse, and Rich has proved between Flexible and McGinnis, give him a little horse and he's going to outspin and outturn you, especially indoors. He makes the Porsche do its maximum. That was, an unfortunate but a lovely ride. I don't know if Rich has Flexible in tonight or probably not. But I don't know how long Shelley's out for, but Rich is lucky to have him for the rest of this fall, I would imagine. He's going to have some fun with him. He'll have some good classes. Look, it's hard. They're going right at the middle of those two. They turn the corner, they see the number 4 again before they see the number 6 jump, and they have to kind of pull their eye off of it, and at the last minute it's like, why aren't we jumping? Oh, because you want me to jump that? Are you serious? And I call that a blind turn with a false exit. So as it turns, the horse thinks number 4 is the jump. He doesn't even see number 6, as you can tell, until the very last second. And so the false exit is he thinks it's 4, and then you have to turn him into the side door, and he didn't even see that there was a door there that you want him to go through. So, all right, here's Carl.
Carl is a Northern California boy, but he spent quite a bit of time in Southern California. He has been working with Eric Navet now for quite a few years. This is a really nice 9-year-old that they have. Again, a horse that's kind of gone back and forth between Eric and Carl, but Carl rides it very well.
And again, you can see him curving that first line, and that means he's able to go to the next jump a quicker track. Doesn't mean he has to go as fast, but look, a fraction more inside. He's smooth, curling, never slowed down. That was a nice track. He knew just exactly how carved that could be. Now here again, get their eye on. He did a better job. He got his horse's eye on the jump a little sooner Others were hustling and then getting their eye. He got the horse's eye on it, and then he sent him, which was much smarter. You know, when you kick a horse, they should know. Oh, my goodness. Again, I've jinxed him. And every time we have a round, I start complimenting the rider. It seems like I put a voodoo doll on him or something.
He almost lost count in that one.
Yeah, and again, I think he was shifting out a second to just put that angle back in. And I think when he did it, his horse got just a little distracted and thought maybe he was, I don't know if there is a room to get around that jump. Maybe there's some bushes on the side that maybe he thought he was supposed to go around the jump through that little crack. And again, you know, in speed classes, there are a lot of times in jump offs that they will feather. You know, I call it putting a feather through a keyhole, and, you know, so it might not be unusual for that horse to think he was going through a little narrow gap. Let's see, I'm sure they'll give us that on the replay again. Here we go. See, look, there's the butterfly and the trees on the side. You can see him just a little kind of zig right before he was going to go left, and, you know, it was just, again, maybe just a little last-minute miscalculation.
And here he is back in the ring, currently sits in third, Will Simpson. And Olympic gold medalist Will Simpson
Will's
from the United States,
a
rides for
wonderful,
Monarch
super
International.
competitive rider, as we saw earlier in the class. This horse that he's riding is a horse that his student Hannah van Heidegger has ridden quite a bit. For sure, it's going to be one that he's going to try and be very competitive on. You don't ever see Will walk in the ring and not try to be competitive.
No, Will usually doesn't enter too many classes he doesn't try to win. This season in Thermal was absolutely incredible. I've never witnessed anything like it. I've been in this business a long time. I don't know exactly what the number finished, but he was, I don't know, 75% of the Grand Prix he went, and he won on different horses over an 8-week circuit. And that's, like, incredible to peak for that long. I mean, when he won 4 in a row.
Oh, you're doing it again, buddy.
We better stop talking about people doing well, because we're taking all the good karma and putting it in the bad karma for this class. But
that's
you know,
too bad.
It happens. It happens as the streaks go. Sometimes they go the other way as well. So it's, you know, Will's a survivor. He's gonna, you know, it's not gonna deter him. It looks like he's gonna pull up from competition, maybe jump a schooling jump just to reinforce a positive, and he knows that he's not in the competition. He's not going to waste the jumps all the way around the course. He's just going to some happy note. A little disappointing, I'm sure. He wanted to try to go back, and, you know, he's still sitting third, but, you know, I know Will likes to win.
Yeah, for sure. But hopefully he's got one that he's going to do tomorrow night. I'm sure he does.
Yeah. And, you know, this class is probably not anybody's World Cup horses in this class to me. This is a class for some of the younger horses, or maybe in the case of somebody having more than one horse. I believe tomorrow night they can only ride one horse. So if they had a few, then the horse show offers a few other classes with good prize money. You keep them sharp by competing a little bit at times as well. And some of the younger horses, this is a good class. It's kind of a gradual step to that World Cups.
Got Carrie Roofer back in the ring here. This is a lovely stallion that she had up at Spruce Meadows and was quite competitive on. Newish ride for her earlier this year, I believe she got it.
Well, it's if nothing else, it's adorable. It looks like an overgrown pony stallion, which, you know, is. I made a living in my career in the Grand Prix more on small horses, on kind of like Rich Fellers. I like that little sporty model. Give me a little horse that thinks big rather than a big horse that I have to make think little. It's much easier for me. So, and she's got one that looks like I would love to ride. Carries its little eyes up. Look at his eyes are on front, up high, looking at the top of the jump. He's not looking at the crowd. He's looking, where's that jump? I want it. Little misjudgment there. I think he figured it out. Now, all right, now here we go. This is where things are. All right, she's stepping on the pedal and then made the turn a little scrambly. See, this is where you have to get the traction and then get the acceleration. She did a good job there. All right, if you're spinning your wheels in the turn, you might be going fast, but you're going sideways more than you're going forward. And usually when you're going sideways, it means your horse is getting lower. And when he's getting lower, it means he can't jump as high. Looks like she managed it pretty well. That's her time. And in the fourth, good round, cute horse. Really cute horse. Look at that. He's proud of himself, too. Here's Will's from the time before. The horse got off stride. The horse slipped a step behind and got what we call a cross canter, which means he's on one lead in front and another lead behind. Here's Carrie making that turn to the last line, galloping out. Horse, look at his eyes. Look at, where's that last jump? Where's that timer? Look at him. Oh, piece of cake. Piece of cake. Happy girl, happy horse.
Sure, she's thrilled to do that in front of her home crowd.
And this horse owned by Linda Southern Health Cards. Dora Mead, the 12-year-old stallion. First out by Guillermo Obligado.
We've got Ben Asselin back in the ring. This is a lovely looking horse. It's a 12-year-old stallion by Guillaume de Revel. Jumped a beautiful high first jump there.
Yeah, this one doesn't look like he has any trouble getting up in the air, that's for sure.
No.
Again, this is one of your power horses, so you're not going to maybe see him go as fast, even if he makes a little misjudgment there. Your power horses aren't going to be as fast looking, and they're maybe not going to be able to keep their footwork as quick. And to me, it's, again, different styles and different riders like different types and different speeds and rhythms and balances and strengths, and obviously body style for the rider has to help match the horse a little bit. I mean, I know myself, I'm short-legged, and the wider warm blood horses, it wasn't so much the height, it was the width of how wide my legs had to wrap around and still hang on, and that also factored in. Ben's a good tall boy and a good long-legged boy. Again, this horse is very powerful. It's not looking like it's handling the steering part of the course as well. He's throwing his head a bit, and so he's arguing a little bit with Ben about where we're going as far as smoothness, so his eyes aren't all on the jumps. He had a few rails, but, again, solid round.
12 jumping falls.
It's so different from Carrie's horse that went last. His little ears in his eyes were looking at every jump way before the jump, and this horse was more distracted about what Ben was asking him to do and throwing his head around arguing and not focusing where he's going. And just for horse in herself, look, he's shaking his head, and he's kind of putting it down, and he's just not, like, people have to measure hand-eye. Horses have to measure eye-feet coordination. If their eyes are shaking, it's a little hard to stabilize where your feet are going to go to.
Cara, an 11-year-old chestnut mare, started by a champion for pleasure.
Oh.
Siri Kane back in the ring again.
Yeah.
She had a little, she had woodpecker. Yeah, she had a little trouble at the Liverpool. Let's see how she does here with this one.
Yeah, she's lucky enough to have a second chance at it, and looks like she has two horses that are similar types.
Right.
So once you've ridden the course on one, if they're similar types as far as stride and energy and all, it gives you a better feel of what you maybe need to do better, or what you can still do as well, or what certainly, hopefully she's modifying her plan to the Liverpool on this one,
right,
to make sure she doesn't make that mistake again. It's a process. You're not going to figure it out all the first time. And again, the course changes every time you go in the ring. So just because you had a question asked of you yesterday and you didn't quite get to do it well, you might not get that question today. So you might have to wait and practice it in another class, and maybe another issue will show up. And I call it it's checks and balances. You go to the horse show and you check to see, where am I, how am I competing, not only with the courses and the other people, but with myself and my horse and my progress. And then you go home and you start balancing your program to where, okay, I'm finding a common fault of right turns to verticals off the short corner. Well, let's go home and practice. And that's what I use some of these shows as stepping stones to know what to practice and what's good. Don't discount what's good, but don't go home and practice that.
Right.
Go home and practice what's hard. And the more you get comfortable with it, the more when it shows up in the ring, you'll feel less threatened or less vulnerable to it.
That was our final entry. Cara and Siri.
Well, that was a pretty good class. We had our second horse in the ring. Looks like it's going to end up on top. Eric was spectacular on that big horse to be as fast as he was. And Megan News put in a terrific round after that. A very different type horse, but beautifully ridden as well.
It was fun. I mean, like we said, the first two came in, and you sort of get a feel typical of what you think a class is going to be like, and then it totally turned around and became very few clean rounds. And when the first two went looking like it was, an easy track, an easy jump clean, and it shows how good those two riders were. Without seeing anybody else go, they just mastered their plan before anybody else made a plan, and Will rode his horse technically beautifully, and I compared a Ferrari to a SUV, and the SUV won this time. Eric was obviously, he's a master, and he did what I was saying on some of the bigger horses. He never slowed down. He rode a track that was neat enough to be challenging to pace, but not so challenging that his horse had to stop and start on angles where he couldn't get his legs and his timing. And that's it. We're timing our eye to measure the distance, and for the horse measuring his eye to his front feet, and enough power for the back feet. And Eric was a master at it tonight, and I think we've got a good group of riders here with obviously other horses for tomorrow night to come back and watch show jump.
Yep, absolutely. It was a fun class.
Yeah, this was a nice warm-up, Lindsay and I. This is our first time broadcasting together, so we had a little chance to try ourselves out at this, and hopefully we didn't make anybody's life too miserable tonight by listening to us, and we enjoyed watching and sharing what we were watching with you. And
dates back to 1878. Today the brand is involved. Yeah, the most important equestrian events are.
And it looks like we're going to go to commercial and be back right after these messages.
International Horse Show is the Conquest Classic Moon Phase 1.
Developed by engineers and tested by the world's best riders, the 2GS pushes forward the frontiers of performance. 2GS by CWD Technology. Next generation.
Wow, is that a Hemi?
It sure is.
That'll be just like you when I grow up.
If you want to be like me, you got to sell all these trucks at 12 grand off MSRP. Hey, it's Vince Bloom, the big guy at Lasher's Oak Grove Dodge. During Truck Month, I've got 6 2015 Ram 2500 Laramie Crew Cab 4x4s. Closeout price at just 12 grand off MSRP. That's 12 grand off MSRP, only at Oak Grove Dodge, and the Oak Grove Auto Mall, and online at oakgrovedodge.com.
Odiseo by Cavalia opens November 25th under the White Big Top at AT&T Park. Tickets available at cavalia.net.
Wine is closely tied to the land. It is earth, sunlight, and passion in a glass. Welcome to Cali Paso, a place where wines of elegance and refinement have impressed critics and created a worldwide phenomenon. A place of stunning architecture, luxury, and passionate winemaking.
Welcome back, Lindsay. It's been a great night tonight. We are going to go over to the broadcast or the announcer here in the pavilion to give you the awards, but we enjoyed it, and I hope everybody comes back tomorrow night to watch the World Cup class. And Lindsay, I'm looking forward to tomorrow night. I think we got a great group of riders here.
Yeah, I think we should have a super class, and it was nice to see everybody do a little speed track tonight before we did that tomorrow.
All right. Well, I think we're going to kick it over to the PA in the building here to give the awards.
Eric Navet. What an amazing rider. Wow. What a rider right there. That horse owned by Signe Osby of Redwood City and Jean Kirzy. Well, the 13-year-old bay stallion. A Belgian warm-blood sired by Jet Set D. And let's meet our champion, that brand new cooler aboard. He is Mount Jean Kirzy, Francis Eric Navet. Absolutely untouchable this evening. And the only rider to break that 60-second, the second rider to break that 60-second mark, but the only clear with a time of 59.40 seconds. And your champion of our meter 45 speed. And quite the champion, Eric Navet, Jean Kirzy, so many Grand Prix victories under his belt. And quite the resume. That is royalty in the sport of show jumping. Megan News and Vesuvius in second place. In third, aboard the dude, Will Simpson. Let's move on to fourth to Carrie Roofer. And Carrie Roofer aboard Clapton. Fifth place, here's the Gray Stallion Zanzibar and Tanya Lavorchek. Taking home sixth, just the one-time faults, Albert 2 and Michelle Rodel. In seventh and in eighth place, he had the fastest ground time. Seventh aboard Karushka with the 4 faults. Eighth aboard Gordon Horta from Brazil, Eduardo Manes. And those are the top placings, our $35,000 meter 45 speed. And our wonderful guests on course just making their way back to that red carpet. We do have one more request, and that is for Jean Kirzy and Eric Navet to lead our field in our victory ride. And here he comes back around, our champion of this evening for the Sacramento International Horse Show FEI Speed, aboard Jean Kirzy, the salute from Eric Navet. Making news, Will Simpson, Carrie Roofer, here's Tony Lavorchek, Michelle Rodel, Brazil's Eduardo Manes. And let's call our champion back around. Well-deserved victory lap. And his horse is loving this one. Jean Kirzy, that's the horse, the rider, Eric Navet. Once again, join us tomorrow night, the Longines FEI World Cup Jumping Sacramento. As you are going to see such wonderful sport tomorrow night. And that'll be day number 4 of the 2015 Sacramento International Horse Show. And on behalf of the Sacramento International Horse Show, all of our wonderful sponsors, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Right.
Passion, effort, overcoming obstacles, glory.
What a horse, what a combination, and what a time!
In a region where equestrian sport has been growing at full gallop, a brand new major league, the Longines FEI World Cup Jumping North American League.
43.83 down with just one to go.
The best human and equine athletes of the sport battling to qualify for the amazing Longines FEI World Cup Jumping Final.
Et il le fait! Oui, pour 15 centièmes! Extraordinaire, quelle finale fantastique! Increíble! ¡Qué tiempo! ¡Qué caballo! ¡El ganador!
A unique sport, rich in personalities, where human and horse must have a true partnership to succeed, and where men and women share the same podium. An electrifying finish to the Longines season, a truly global final, where the biggest stars of international jumping will fight for the trophy and the massive €1.3 million jackpot.
A world-class performance by a world-class man.
The most exciting equestrian events in 14 outstanding venues across 3 countries: Mexico, the United States, and Canada. Taking the sport across the continent to iconic cities and world-class equestrian locations. 2015 goes down in American sport history with the launch of the Longines FEI World Cup Jumping North American League. The perfect combination of high-profile sport, family entertainment, and thrilling competition. Kicking off in August across the continent.
Developed by engineers and tested by the world's best riders, the 2GS pushes forward the frontiers of performance. 2GS by CWD Technology. Next generation.
Wow, is that a Hemi?
It sure is.
That'll be just like you when I grow up.
If you want to be like me, you got to sell all these trucks at 12 grand off MSRP. Hey, it's Vince Bloom, the big guy at Lasher's Oak Grove Dodge. During Truck Month, I've got 6 2015 Ram 2500 Laramie Crew Cab 4x4. Closeout price at just 12 grand off MSRP. That's 12 grand off MSRP, only at Oak Grove Dodge, in the Oak Grove Auto Mall and online at oakgrovedodge.com.
Odiseo by Cavalia opens November 25th under the White Big Top at AT&T Park. Tickets available at cavalia.net.
Wine is closely tied to the land. It is earth, sunlight, and passion in a glass. Welcome to Cali Paso, a place where wines of elegance and refinement have impressed critics and created a worldwide phenomenon. A place of stunning architecture, luxury, and passionate winemaking.